I'm Becky Walsh. This is the second of 3 films about corporate communication for wellness. So this one is about emails. Now, oh my goodness. If you've ever been on a holiday, come back, turned your computer on and seen this absolute deluge of emails and you're like, oh my goodness, how on earth am I going to get through these? So one of the things about well-being is overwhelm just gets us to a point where we're in a fight or flight response, we're not in the prefrontal cortex. So what I would say is the minute you become overwhelmed with the amount that emails you've got, go and make yourself a cup of tea and get yourself a little reward, I would, so that you've got something to look forward to at the end of kind of like trudging through them. I feel, even though we've had emails for probably about like 20 years now, sometimes within the corporate environment, we're still treating them in the way that we used to when we were letter writing. Now, letter writing information, where you would write, lick your envelope and shove it in the post, well, there was a huge amount of time that happened between, sorry post office, but there was quite a lot of time between when the letter was sent and received. So by the time the person wrote back to you with a reply, loads of time had passed. Nowadays, everybody is expecting everything to be replied to as instantaneously as it arrived. So you can't reply as instantaneously as it arrived, but that seems to be the expectation, which means that many of us are doing our emails at home or checking our emails or, oh, the phone has buzzed again, and we seem to be completely plugged into a level of communication. However, the shortness of emails, which is why we have emojis and things like that, the shortness of emails and getting straight to the point is not necessarily getting any different from the way that it was when we were letter writing. We still feel that we need to go into these massively long explanations. Now, I would say that when you're writing an email, you really want to create kind of like things that are very easy to read, very simple text. In fact, if you're really wanting to get a point across, stick it in bold, because we still read things like we do headlines in a newspaper. You might read the headline and flick through the pages. Well, we do that within our emails as well. We read the headline and skim read the rest. If you can stick a headline through the email, then it's la 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 la, and now I'm reading the bold font. La 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 la. Oh, and here's more bold font. So if you can actually nail what is really important that you want the reader of your email to understand into almost like, I wouldn't say bullet points, but into bold, just these little tiny sections, then it means that your email is going to be understood much better than if you do it in a remit. I don't know if you've ever had this where you say something in an email to somebody, you've been really clear, then they write back with a bunch of questions that you answered in the previous email and they're like, you thick idiot, I've already said this, or words to that effect. And then you look back over your email to make sure you did, and you did. You've said all of this. Why didn't they see it? Because they skim read it. So if there's really important points and you don't want to be asked questions that make you think that someone else is an idiot, then bold them. That'll make your life an awful lot easier. And for any of you skim reading emails, that's just the way that we work. However, before you ask tough questions, it might be a good idea to go back and check over the email. Just saying. So emails also, when people put them as being time sensitive, it triggers people's like, we've got enough of that already. Don't make a time sensitive email. Don't stick your hazard freaking exclamation mark thing on an email unless it really genuinely is. But like, I know work colleagues who will do it on every single email, or the alert to say this person has opened and read this email. Stop doing that, because you're basically saying me, I'm next. I'm the one that you replied to next because I knew that you opened the email. Well, I don't care. In fact, sometimes it makes you want to go, right, you are the last person I'm going to reply to. So those things that are deliberately designed to have power over the person that you're sending the email to, that kind of like, I want to know that you've opened the email and this is time sensitive and I need to know that you've opened the email and then I'm expecting a direct response. Unless you want to be a bit like cruel to somebody, then, float your boat and stop watching my films. But otherwise, that's just act of kindness. Don't do that. It's really rude. The other thing that I would say as well is bum covering. So many people, I can understand this, depending on the organisation, will send emails out CC to everybody to prove I'm doing my job and look how brilliant I am at doing my job. And that's lovely, isn't it? And also we're worried that we're going to get criticised for not having done something. Well, if you've got a trail, always keep a trail of your emails. If you've got a trail of emails and somebody says, I didn't get that email, you can at least prove that you sent it. But sending it to, the chain of command, top boss, second boss, middle boss, lower boss, and the accountant in finance and blah, 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 just stop. We're getting enough emails as it is. Only CC in the people who are really relevant to the email, not friends of friends of friends of friends. And if you are going to send an email that is not particularly important and work related, mark spam on it. Just in the comment, just say spam. This is about the fact that the kitchen is flooded. Spam. This is about the fact that I want to nag you about coffee cups or recycling. Spam. This is about the fact that I've got a party on Tuesday night. Spam. This is a picture of my cat. Just because it gives people the opportunity to not open it. Because if you are really super busy and then you open an email because it's just it's next in the queue and it's just a load of old drosh, you're like, ugh. But if you had a choice that you didn't have to open that email, then you know that you can open it when you've got more time. So that's a real act of kindness. Emails are overwhelming. Please try not to be grammar police. I'm going to be really clear about this, and I'm probably going to upset a few people, but let me just be really super blunt. If you've got perfect grammar and you've got perfect spelling, and yeah, you may be guilty of the occasional typo because you were typing too quickly or because the autoresponder kicked in and got something wrong. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about whether or not you've got great grammar, you've got great spelling, great English, fantastic. You are privileged. Just remember that there are people out there in the world that didn't get a great education. Maybe you got to pay for education, maybe they didn't. Maybe they grew up in a house where the parents were yelling at each other all of the time and they weren't able to do their homework and they weren't able to concentrate. Maybe their parents weren't able to teach them, didn't have time, had multiple jobs, didn't have time to teach them, and maybe they're a little bit slow about picking up this stuff. Maybe they're dyslexic, maybe they're dyspraxic, maybe they're on some kind of spectrum towards that, as many geniuses are. We do not all have one brain. And the brain that you took to school going into the future is not the brain that is going to save the entire planet. Right hemisphere thinkers, idea people, people who can see patterns in things, people who see outside of the box, they are the people that are going to make greatness in the world. Now you write to one of those people with your, there's been a little typo, you've got a little typo, as if they've just done a little poop. You know, if you just keep going on about, little typo, oh, you've made a mistake there. Oh, look at this error. Oh, there's another error. You are going to shut down a genius. Do not shut down a genius. Because people who can't do all of that stuff are usually excellent at other stuff. But what happens is they don't get to get their voice out into the world because you've just done this. And it's really rude. Don't shut down another person's line of communication because you spotted a typo. And I know you think, maybe you're being kind. But to be honest, I think that most of those kinds of emails don't come across as being kind. They don't come across as saying, look, I'm really sorry, I just need to point this out. You put this out there publicly. It comes across as, and I just want to remind you come from a state of privilege. And in a state of privilege, it means that you might have that part of your brain that works absolutely perfectly, but you might not be able to pack a truck for coffee. I'm just saying we all have different skills. Be really kind when you're saying to somebody that they have made a typo, because in doing so, you can shut down the fact that they have something very important to share to the world, but you've made them feel like crap. So I'm just saying, don't do that to people. And if you want to make them feel like crap, stop watching my films. So we've got one more in the lineup of 3. Do comment, share, subscribe. If this film has affected you, call this number now. But if this film has affected you, and you think, yeah, you know, that happens to me, I get accused of that, then share it. And if you are a person who is a grammar police person, share it anyway. So share, comment. If you've got any problems, put them in the comments below, and I'll reply to them as soon as I can. Thank you.